What a crazy day for pitching. Hunter Greene, Michael King, Reese Olson, and many more. We'll break them all down. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Thursday, September 21st. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris the Welsh. Today on the show, we will talk about those big pitching performances. Corbin Carroll is capping off his crazy rookie season, starter sit decisions for the final week, and much more. Quick reminder to stick with us this off season. We have a bunch of fun content coming your way. As always, please like this video and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. And if you're listening on the audio side, download, follow, and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And let us know if we helped you dominate your league, win a championship, drop a 5-star review. Let us know about it. You know, the bosses like that kind of stuff. So we do appreciate all of your 5-star reviews. Let's get into Wednesday's action.
Oh my goodness gracious.
All right, Welshie, I will give you your opportunity to talk about Corbin Carroll. But first, I've got to talk about my guy, Michael King with the New York Yankees, in a losing effort, I must add as well. The best start of his young career against the Blue Jays. 7 innings, 1 run, 13 strikeouts to 0 walks in this one. He had 16 swinging strikes on a career high 101 pitches. The first time he's thrown more than 87 pitches in his career, had everything working. 6 of those swinging strikes on the changeup, 4 on the sweeper, 4 on the fastball. And diving into his pitch mix a little bit, he has 2 elite secondary pitches. His sweeper and his changeup, they each have a whiff rate over 41% this year. Again, this is Michael King. 7 starts this year with the Yankees, a 1.78 ERA, a 1.06 whip. 45 strikeouts over 30 1/3 innings. He is 50% rostered. And Welsh, I think he is at the top, the very top of pitchers to add, sleeper pitchers for the final week. Right now, looks like he's lined up for 2 starts at the Blue Jays and at the Kansas City Royals. We just saw him dominate the Blue Jays here on Wednesday, and obviously at the Royals is a great matchup. I think he's at the top. If he's available, you got to get him.
I 100% agree. More so, as I've been working through a lot of paying attention to offseason stuff and dynasties. There are dynasty leagues out there that Michael Young might have just been sitting around. You pick him up. You pick him up because the way he's been stretched out and the way he's been working, this is a legitimate, I know I'm going to say like a sleeper into next year. And as soon as anyone this year says sleeper, everyone's like, well, they're not a sleeper. But this is a dude in how he's been stretched out has worked completely. He has 5 straight games of going at least 4 innings. He has given up a total of 4 earned runs during that time. He has 8 or more strikeouts in 3 of his last starts. He has looked great. 2 of his 4 double-digit used pitches are over 40% on the whiff rate. He's looked phenomenal. He's looked great as a starter. He can go deep into games, a 30% K rate, an under 10% walk rate. And as you mentioned, you'd look at the pitch mix. Where are the 40% whiff rates? It's been sweeper and it's been changeup. You know, we're hyper-focused on like Nick Lodolo having like a 45 or 48% on his big curveball. You know, if you can just maintain low max EVs against on your fastball, which his sinker 88 against, his fastball is 90, and then you have a couple punch out pitches. If you can just go deep and maintain your velo, you can be a good starter. He is doing stuff for the people that have punched out on the back half of this year. They're not going to be prepared for Michael King, and there's probably going to be a lot of articles written about Michael King in the offseason. So I completely agree with you. This stretch out has worked. His stuff has worked. He's a no-brainer. Like, I think a lot of us are looking at like Sawyer Gipson-Long as like a must stream type of pitcher. That's Michael Young. Michael Young, I think, is actually the tippy top of that list. He's the new Cole Reagans hype to end the year. So I am very with you. And I would have picked him today had you not. Had I gotten to the sheet before you, I would have put Michael King on here. But Frank had it all set and was raring to go for some Michael King.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I should have let you take him too, because someone left us a 4-star review on Apple, and they said they would have gave us 5 stars, but that I'm too big of a homer on this podcast. So, I don't know. I feel like I've been pretty tame with my Yankees takes this year, but I guess with the
Dominguez, you've been fine. What's like the home? What do you think the homer Yankee thing has been?
I think Dominguez. We probably talked about Dominguez a lot when he got called.
No. Piss off with that. There's no way that's the homer thing. Jason Dominguez was incredible. Maybe a little defensive of like Luis Severino early on, maybe.
No, I'm pretty sure in the review he mentioned Jason Dominguez. So I don't know. We're just talking about guys that get called up. And
can't make anybody happy. Can't make anybody happy.
Michael King. Were you a big Michael Young fan growing up, by the way, Welsh?
Yes, actually, I literally said Michael Young earlier. I was on a show today talking about Michael King, and I just kept saying Michael Young. So did I do it again today?
Yeah, you said him. You said it about 3 times.
I'm sorry. Michael King, Michael King, Michael King, Michael King, Michael King. Got it out of my system. Michael King, not Michael Young. Yes, I did love Michael King with the Rangers. He was a great hitter. So
yeah. If you say Michael King's name 5 times in a row, he'll just appear on your fantasy.
He'll go 7 innings and be a starter. So Michael King.
I do kind of want to lump Michael King in with Reese Olson here and quickly talk about him because this guy has been amazing recently as well. So I don't want to take anything away. I think it's kind of Michael King at the top, and then maybe Reese Olson is like right behind him for the final week, like a 1A and 1B situation. Because Reese Olson, while he's done it against lesser competition recently, he just marched into Dodger Stadium and shut that team down. 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run allowed, 5 strikeouts, 11 swinging strikes on 94 pitches. And over his last 5 starts, he now has a 1.50 ERA, .80 whip, 28 strikeouts, over 30 innings. He's got great secondary stuff. I watched a lot of the start. He has great movement too. Like his pitches are moving all over the place. The slider, the curve, the changeup. He throws hard with the fastball too. There is a lot to like about this kid, Reese Olson. Seems like he's kind of really figuring things out here to end the season. Next week, he is home against the Royals and home against the Guardians. So 2 great matchups. He's 33% rostered. I'm taking Michael King. Welsh, where are you going? King over Reese Olson?
Yeah, I'm taking Michael King and Michael Young first, and then I'll go with Reese Olson. Yeah, Reese is really interesting too. Almost 3,000 RPM on the slider. The curve spin is elite as well. So I mean, he can absolutely spin those, and then he can just deaden the changeup, which is something you definitely wanted in changeup sinkers when you can kind of deaden those things. There's around 1,000 RPM difference between his slider and his changeup. That's equivalent to, we talk a lot about like velo mixes, from fastball to whatever your lowest, maybe there's a 20 mile per hour differential, but having like those biggest spin difference just gives it a whole nother shape to the pitch as well. So yeah, Reese has been really, really impressive, and he's on that list. Maybe number 2. I mean, now you're giving me both at 2 starters. That kind of changes the value, because I'm thinking of like Gibson Long as one of the like most exciting streamers for everybody, but he's now lining up to only have 1 start. I would definitely go King and then Reese Olson, and then we'd probably get into singular starts there. But Reese has been good, but King is king.
And Sawyer Gibson Long, we'll see him pitch on Friday, so we'll find out what he does there. Good matchup for him against Oakland, and it looks like the final week Gibson Long will face the Royals, so a really good matchup for him there as well. I would slot him between those 2 names we mentioned. On yesterday's podcast, Scott and I spoke a lot about Ryan Pepiot and Kenta Maeda. Pepiot, we're still kind of up in the air. We don't know if he's going to be a 2-star pitcher for next week or like a 2 bulk relief pitcher, whatever you want to call it. But if it looks like he's going to line up that way, I would put Pepiot at the top, and then I would go Michael King, and then I would go Reese Olson. If it looks like it's only 1 start for Pepiot, I would put him behind those 2 names. And same thing goes for Kenta Maeda, who gets the Oakland A's and in Coors Field next week. So 1 great start, and then obviously in Coors Field, you don't love that. But if I'm just ranking all of them again, it would be Pepiot with 2. If he only has 1, it's Michael King at the top, then Reese Olson, then Pepiot, and then Kenta Maeda if you're looking for the final week there. All right, Welsh, now is your time to shine, baby. I know you told us about Corbin Carroll this time last year, right? You joined us here on the podcast. We were talking a lot about prospects while First Pitch Arizona is going on and all that fun stuff. And you kept bringing up Corbin Carroll. You said he's the real deal. Kid's going to be a stud. And now look what he's done. 25 homers, 50 steals as a rookie. Wax poetic about your boy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool thing. You and I were actually talking off air about the offseason stuff, and I think, at least for the foreseeable future, as long as the reviews keep coming in good, that I get to kind of stick around and do similar to what we did last year, and that was what we were doing. We were talking about positional stuff. It was probably like 11 months ago from where we are right now, and we were just kind of going through positional stuff and talking about prospects. And I try not to be homery. I'm usually actually pretty like pessimistic about my own team, but this is a guy that I feel really adamant about. And I think the best conversation we can really have around him at this point is what you just did the other day, talking about where you rank him. Because listen, he's like the first rookie to go 25-50. I think he's the second rookie to go 20-40 or 25-40, whatever it was with Mike Trout. I mean, Corbin Carroll has beat every expectation. I remember arguing with Scott on here about the power numbers. I remember arguing about projections, having him at 16 stolen bases, whether it was Cardi's Bat X or Steamer. No one had him over 20, said he was going to lead the Diamondbacks there, and he's done it. And everything, the hard hit numbers have been nice. The max EVs are almost at 114. Barrel rate has gone up. I mean, what do you really need to talk about? But you and I off air were extending the conversation you had on air about the value of how you approach him. And you said you couldn't see him as a top 5, and it was strictly because of that shoulder. And, you know, the swing is not great. The one thing I was kind of counter arguing with you is like, Corbin Carroll's safe. That's the other goofy thing. There's the injury thing, but outside of that, he's safe. He steals massive amounts of bases. He finds ways to get on. Think about the first 3 weeks of the year. The guy didn't walk once. All he was doing was striking out. And then he was able to have a complete turn on that for his season and end up having an almost 9% walk rate on there. So I think he's safe. It's just the way he swings, I think, makes people a little bit uncomfortable. And I was telling you, I'd been just peeking at some stats, and this was like 2 days ago, but there were 4 40-plus homer guys, 6 40-plus stolen base guys. When you brought it down to 25, there were around 18 25-plus stolen base. I think I'd qualified, so like it didn't have Ellie on there, so there's a couple others, so maybe you call it 20, but there were double the amount of 25-plus homer players. So in trying to construct your rosters, you want to pay attention because the elite power is becoming less than the elite stolen bases, which is crazy. But there is a beautiful little mixed line there of players that equate to both. And right now, there's 4 players that equate to both, or almost there at least. And you're looking at Acuna, you're looking at Bobby Witt Jr., who's one of the most underrated, Corbin Carroll, and Julio Rodriguez, who's almost at that 40 marker. So, I mean, when you need to worry about getting the elite homers and the elite stolen bases, you can also just make sure you get guys that qualify on both, and you can build your rosters around them. Guys that have good batting average. You're looking at sub 20% K percentage from both Carroll and Witt and Acuna. Julio doesn't have that. I just think he is like a top 5 guy, with the only real argument being your concern of like, oh my God, I feel like that shoulder's going to fall off. So, you know, it's probably annoying to everybody at this point, but listen, 25-50, it's an unreal marker. It's the easy rookie of the year. Hopefully he helped a lot of your teams, and hopefully he doesn't disappoint next year and suffer some more of a shoulder injury. He's got time to recover in the offseason.
And just to put this season in even more perspective, right? Because again, first rookie, 25 plus homers, 50 steals. Think about how long baseball has been around, right? This is just the 13th individual season in MLB history. 25 plus homers, 50 plus steals. That stat comes per Sarah Langs on Twitter. So again, like it's not just a historic rookie season. It's just a historic season.
And I think a lot of people are ready to like down talk it because of how much stolen bases are up and the bases have moved. And you're not wrong about that. Like, if we're having an exponential amount of stolen bases, it easily equates to like, you know, no shifting and not being able to throw over more than twice and the bases being closer. Yes. But you also have to give extra credit to the players that go beyond, that go above and beyond. And who did that? Yeah. Corbin Carroll, Bobby Witt. Those players went above and beyond what this new rule is allowing for other players to go from not as relevant to like mediocre in the space. It moved, I mean, we really don't have a gauge for it with Corbin Carroll because he's a rookie, but it moved Carroll to maybe being like a middle line guy to being literally the elite of elite. He also those rules didn't really help him hit 25 plus homers, but we have to give, as much as everyone's going to down talk all of it, don't down talk the Bobby Witts and the Corbin Carrolls who have made it into an elite advantage.
I agree with you completely. And I think it's a really good point too, because I think the seasons you might downplay a little bit are the George Springer just barely getting to 2020, or look, Xander Bogaerts is having a bonkers September right now. And it looks like he's kind of gunning for a 2020 season too. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but let's not downplay the guys that are, again, do it like having these historic seasons. Somebody was in my mentions on Twitter or X recently, and they were trying to like downplay what Ronald Acuna has done. They're like, but it's so easy to steal bases. Nobody else is doing what he's doing.
Who else is stealing like almost 80? Like
he's created his own club, 40-70. Like he's about to eclipse 40-70. That's never been done in baseball history. I don't care about like steals rules. No one else has 70 stolen bases, let alone doing it with 40 home runs.
And that's why I don't care at all to listen to anybody's argument of being like, well, it's so easy to do this now. That's fine. So going down talk, I'm looking at the list, going down talk Whit Merrifield, going down talk TJ Friedel, go down talk Michael Garcia. Do those all you want, but don't down talk the elite players that didn't just make it a cool season, a good 25-30 season, that are putting up video game numbers. Those are the players that you want to prioritize. So that's kind of back to my argument of like, you can be kind of scared about that shoulder, though I would argue that he pulled through it. He's made the whole season worthwhile, and he has an off season to kind of have a full recovery. But those are the players that we should take the shots on. Like, a lot of people are scared to take some shots sometimes, rightfully so. You know, your season can get ruined. I know, Frank, you're like a little bit timid about it, but like, if you're gonna take a shot, wouldn't you? Here's one. I mean, would you rather take a shot on what's going on with Shohei Ohtani as a utility player at the back end of the first round, or have to commit to a top 5 pick in Corbin Carroll? Like, what's the shot you'd rather take?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much we need to learn this offseason. But if you're just kind of asking me to answer the question right now, I would probably prefer to take the top 5 Corbin Carroll over the uncertainty of Shohei Ohtani coming back from Tommy John surgery. You know, he's going to try and come back in like 6.5 months. That's pretty soon to come back from that. So I have my own reservations about Shohei Ohtani as well. And that's kind of in the team conversation as like a Corbin Carroll. It's the injuries for me. And I really don't like to mess around with injuries with my first or second round pick. I like to play it pretty safe. But I will say this as well. It's September 21st.
Yeah, so everything can
change. Reserve my right to change my opinion.
I agree.
But like, if Corbin Carroll just continues to dominate and he has this awesome postseason and there's literally no worry about the shoulder and he shows up to spring training and it's like a non-issue. It's not even like there's no talk about the shoulder. And I'm like, yeah, you know, maybe I'll push him back up. It's like the top 5 or 6, but I don't know. That swing just stands out in the back of my
I know. It's uncomfortable. Every time I see him, I'm like, blah, like as soon as he swings and misses. Here's the other one real quick. Would you rather commit a wheel pick to, I'll give Strider or Cole, or would you rather take a top 5 committed pick to a 25-50 Corbin Carroll? Like, you know what you're getting out of the pitcher. You know there's volatility. You know what the pitching markets look like. It's roto, let's call it. Would you rather do that in the back half of the first round? Because I don't really see why you'd want to take a pitcher in the first round. I know Strider's doing what he's doing. Or would you rather, is Carroll scary enough for you as a top 5 that you're like, yeah, I'll just take the pitcher on the back end? I know this isn't a scenario someone would really have, but
right. Go with it. I think I would go with Strider at the turn. Just thinking about it right now, but it's a fair question. I don't know. I really don't. I probably not going to take a pitcher in the first 2 rounds, like anywhere. I'll wait till like the 3rd or 4th and try and pick up an ace and then maybe wait a couple rounds and maybe try and get like a pseudo ace after that. But yeah, I think it's a fair question and kind of fun scenarios to think about for next year. The point is Corbin Carroll is really, really fun.
It's pretty good.
You know who else is really fun? Hunter Greene. It appears that he really likes the month of September because if you remember last year, his final 4 starts after returning from injury, a .78 ERA and a .83 whip, 37 strikeouts over 23 innings. Hunter Greene was awesome down the stretch, and that was our lasting memory for this year, wanting to draft him and dreaming on 200 strikeouts and all this kind of upside. And here we are. Same thing on Wednesday. An amazing start against the Twins, who, again, I realize they have like a historic strikeout, like a historically bad strikeout rate. So maybe you take it with a grain of salt, but still 14 strikeouts over 7 innings pitched is pretty damn impressive for Hunter Greene. He had 17 swinging strikes on 92 pitches, and he really leaned into that slider in this one. He used it 50% of the time. That was just 40% entering the start. So he made it his most used pitch. Obviously, he was very dominant here. 10 of his 17 swinging strikes on that slider. And here we go again. His last 3 starts in September, 193 ERA, .75 whip, 29 strikeouts over 18 2/3 innings. The guy, he's doing it. I'll look up the matchups here, Welsh, but anything else to add on Hunter Greene's?
You know, One thing I'd really be interested to do is do a comparison of Hunter Greene versus Spencer Strider and just see the similarities and where they fall off, because these are two like primary two pitch pitchers. Hunter Greene is registering the changeup around 5% on the season. He's got big whiff percentages on the slider, and like even looking at like a game to game log and seeing like Strider usually leans pretty heavily on that fastball. Every time we've ever talked, I feel like really positively about Hunter Greene, we're talking about a higher usage of the slider than the fastball, and just being able to find that mix and maybe even being able to manipulate shape. I'm not saying that Hunter Greene is Strider, but there are similarities that I would love to find some comparisons to see. Is this something that he can, are we seeing starts that have emulated what we see as an elite two pitch pitcher? Because my problem ultimately is Hunter Greene might never be more than just this like really awesome, fun, inconsistent pitcher that kind of like Strider's being right now. Like Hunter Greene's full season might be the last 2 months of what we've seen with Spencer Strider, which we could deal with, but it's like these 4 ERAs with, blowout performances and then a 14 strikeout performance, because that's kind of the volatility we see in two pitch pitchers. Christian Javier, I think, struck out 11 tonight, or whatever, maybe it was 11 or 12, and he has been the epitome of inconsistency. So it's like, I don't think I can ever talk myself up on Hunter Greene unless I can see a path where you can manipulate what he's currently been doing to make it better. And Strider's kind of like the piece that I think is where you lean to. But I gave you some time to build up to what you were going to do with the Hunter Greene.
2023 pitching in one word: inconsistency, right? We've talked about it a lot. Some great stretches from pitchers, but then these big blow-up starts out of nowhere. And if you just look at the skills and the pitch mix, Hunter Greene is a lot like Spencer Strider. The biggest difference, and again, this is a massive difference when it comes to pitching, is that Hunter Greene's control is much more erratic, and he pitches in a terrible home ballpark when it comes to home runs. And I think that's going to be enough of a difference where you see, Spencer Strider is arguably the SP1, and Hunter Greene, at his best, maybe he's like a borderline top 30 starting pitcher, something like that, for the reasons that I mentioned. He is only 46% started on CBS, Hunter Greene is. And I remember now, I didn't write him in because CBS has him listed as a 2-star pitcher next week, but the Reds only have 5 games. So I don't really see a scenario how that's going to happen. Yeah. It looks like it'll be 1 start either at Cleveland or at St. Louis. And frankly, I'd be fine using Hunter Greene in either of those matchups the way that he's pitching right now. So
yeah, I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you on it.
Oh my goodness gracious. Offense of the night. Want to highlight the Rangers, who crushed the Red Sox 15-5. Josh Young right back in the saddle, 3 for 5 with his 23rd home run. He had 3 runs, 2 RBI. Jonah Heim, he's picking it back up, 1 for 3 with his 18th home run, 3 RBI. And in his last 9 games, he's batting .273 with 3 home runs. People kept the faith. I thought, Jonah Heim would have been dropped by now. He's still 84% rostered. So if you held on to Jonah Heim, I think you feel pretty good about it. Mitch Garver keeps doing his thing, 1 for 3 with his 18th homer. And a quick discussion on Evan Carter, Welsh.
Yes.
I don't know that you've had the chance to talk about him on this podcast yet, but 3 for 4 with his 2nd home run, 2 runs, 2 RBI. I actually picked him up in Tout Wars. I'm going for the 3-peat, Welsh. So I got Evan Carter in the lineup. Feel great about that. So far, he's played 13 games with Texas. He's batting .314, 2 homers, 2 steals, a 1032 OPS. The dude has looked great. He's 31% rostered. He's got 7 games next week. Looks like there's only 1 lefty on the schedule. If you play in a 5 outfielder league, man, go get this kid. Go get Evan Carter for the final week.
I would fire up the good old, anybody that's seen The Crow, the fire it up, fire it up. I know you haven't seen The Crow. Have you seen The Crow?
I've seen, you know what? There's a lot of movies I haven't seen, but for the movies that I have seen, I've watched them way too many times. Like, I've seen The Crow 10 plus times in my life.
It's a great movie. I haven't, you know what? You know what? This inspired me. I haven't watched The Crow in probably 10 years, but I've probably seen it 25 times. I'm going to watch it this week because it was that good. Maybe it's totally not going to hold up and I'm going to come back. I'm going to tail between my legs.
It's still amazing. It's still amazing. I
feel like it's this amazing movie, but the fire it up. I always love to go back to that. But yeah, I completely agree. Evan Carter has broken my expectation, at least in the early onset of the power. My question has been like, where is it going to be with the power? He's got a 286 ISO in a very short sample size, which is nice. He's been a little bit strikeout heavy, but he's also walked 8 times in 44 plate appearances. The batting average has been up. I think there's a lot of positive signs. I still believe like a long-term thing. I don't see Evan Carter as like an elite power player, and I'm not sure he's going to be an elite stolen base guy. But guess what? I think he's a 2020 guy. I think he's easily a 2020 guy in today's new environment. And as long as the strikeouts don't get ahead of him, but that's next year. Right now, we got a week and a half left. There's not a bunch of lefties. He's hitting great at 9. It's a power offense. I'm firing Evan Carter up for sure.
All right, let's take our first break. And when we return, I've got a few other waiver wire pitchers that could be out there. We'll do that right after this.
Are you guys ready to win some money?
It's never been more fun to win.
$1 million!
Loteria Loca. Series premiere Monday, October 2nd on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Welcome back in. Let's talk about some other waiver wire pitchers that are very clearly behind the names we mentioned earlier. Bailey Ober, a solid second outing back. He was at the Reds, 5 innings, 2 runs, 3 strikeouts in that one. He is 51% rostered. Home against the Oakland A's next week. I do like that quite a bit. Reed Detmers was solid at Tampa Bay, 4 innings, 1 unearned run. He was returning from an injury, so I think they were kind of playing it safe with him. Actually, I'm seeing the pitch count got up to 96, so he was pretty inefficient in this one. Still had 12 swinging strikes for Reed Detmers. He's pitched better recently. He's got 4 earned runs over his last 3 starts, and also gets the Oakland A's. Do the Oakland A's have like 30 games next week? How is
like, how are they playing all these people? Like every great streaming matchup against the A's. It's amazing.
Yeah, but I'm about it, man. Reed Detmers against the Oakland A's. I can get behind that for the final week. Josiah Gray, he followed up his great start last time with a solid one here against the White Sox. 5 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. He's at Baltimore next week. Don't love that. And Adrian Hauser, quality start at the Cardinals. 6 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. He looks like he lines up for 2 starts against the Cardinals and Cubs next week, but he's also Adrian Hauser, so I don't know. Welsh, how would you rank those? Ober against Oakland, Detmers against Oakland, Josiah Gray at the Orioles, and Adrian Hauser for 2 starts.
You make a really good point, too, when it's like he's still Adrian Hauser, though. So it's like really hard to argue that right there. I think he's at the bottom. I think I'm going to probably fall into Reed Detmers a little bit here. I think he's going to probably lead the top. Obviously, the Oakland matchup is great. September, he's got a 2 ERA. I don't know if it's counting most recent. 19 strikeouts in that time. A's are just a phenomenal matchup. I watched some of the Bailey Ober start today. It's fine. He's just leaving some stuff in the middle of the plate. A couple guys were just kind of beating, just beating that ball right up the middle. And I didn't see overpowering stuff, but it's the A's. So I'm going to go. And I think Josiah Gray, I don't like the matchup, but like, I feel like every time I'm on here too, Josiah Gray is like pitching the next day or soon. And he gets kind of like being an afterthought. And he's put up some decent ones. I'm going to rank this Reed Detmers on a strikeout potential, Bailey Ober, and then what were my other 2? It was
Josiah Gray and Adrian Hauser.
Oh, yeah. Gray and then Hauser. I was trying to remember who the last guy was. Adrian Hauser is very forgettable. Apologies to him because he's still Adrian Hauser. But yeah, he's at the bottom.
I think the answer is one of those 2 matchups against the Oakland A's, and then just don't start Josiah Gray or Adrian Hauser next week.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a few waiver wire hitters here. Brandon Drury went 3 for 5 with a double dong, and in 40 games since returning from injury, he's batting .225 with 9 homers and 30 RBI. He's 67% rostered. 6 home games next week, 3 against Texas, 3 against, you guessed it, the Oakland A's.
Oh,
everyone's facing the Oakland A's next week. And Willie Castro, who I mentioned on yesterday's podcast, another big game here. 2 for 4 with a sock in the shoe. His 9th homer, his 32nd stolen base.
Dude, quietest 30 stolen bases in the history of baseball. History of baseball.
Yeah, it's quietly been a very solid season for Willie Castro. 16 games since returning from the IL. He's batting .305. He's got 4 homers, 3 steals, a .937 OPS, and he's 31% rostered. 6 games next week, 3 in Coors Field, 3 against, you guessed it, the Oakland A's.
What's behind door number 3? The Oakland A's.
It's just like Zack Gelof pops out of a box or something like that. What do you prefer between these 2? I think I lean Willie Castro. I think he's more dynamic than Brandon Drury.
I would agree, like as a whole, but I also think you can make the distinction of what are you chasing for your league? Are you chasing for power or are you chasing for speed? Willie Castro is a great speed option. Again, he's probably the overarching one, but Drury is interesting. Drury hasn't had a month where he's played a full, set of games where he's had less than 4 homers. He's had at least 4 homers every single month of playing. He's kind of back on it. The batting average is down, but he's hitting higher in the lineup because there's nobody there. But yeah, I agree with you. Like Willie Castro is the more dynamic player, and he's really putting himself into a good spot. The other funny thing just about him in general have been the injuries around him. That's allowing like more and more playing time, where it's just, the Royce Lewis stuff. It's not funny, but the Royce Lewis stuff, the Carlos Correa, like he's consistently going to keep being out there. He's stealing bases. The hard hit percentage has been like really low this year, but he's showing some really solid max EVs. You guys probably talked about it. 114 on the high. It's very Ketel Marte-ish,
That's for Willie Castro?
for him. Yeah, Willie Castro.
That's pretty impressive. Nice.
114.2 with a 6.9% barrel percentage, which is the second highest of his career. Like I said, that's a very Ketel Marte type of thing to do, where you don't have big average EVs, because his average EV stinks. It's 86.3, but he can tap into it when he's on a little bender, a la Marte. So I'll go with Marte, but if I was trying to chase big power, I would go with Drury.
Okay. You said Marte there, but I'm pretty sure you meant Willie Castro.
I meant Michael Young. I meant Michael Young. That's what I meant. So.
3 names in deeper leagues for the final week of the season. We just talked about, we continuously talk about the Twins matchups for the final week. Oakland and in Coors Field. All these injuries to Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis. I think Kyle Farmer is not a bad name. We're talking like 15-team league, something like that. Could be available. 1 for 4 with his second steal here on Wednesday. He's got 11 home runs on the season. He's 6% rostered, second, third base, and shortstop eligible. Again, the name there is Kyle Farmer. Mark Vientos went 2 for 4 with a double dong for the Mets. And in 19 games since returning, he is batting .279 with 5 home runs and a 93.5 average exit velocity. He is 8% rostered with 6 home games next week. And Tyrone Taylor, another name I mentioned yesterday, 2 for 4 with a double dong here. And in the second half, 48 games, Tyrone Taylor is batting .274 with 8 homers, 5 steals, and 867 OPS, 4% rostered. He's got 6 home games next week, 3 lefties on the schedule. Welsh, any enthusiasm in deeper leagues for Kyle Farmer, Mark Vientos, Tyrone Taylor?
How many lefties do the Mets have? Do you have that in front of you?
I can pull it up. I know there's at least one, Braxton Garrett. They do have some tough pitching matchups. He gets Yuri Perez, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola.
The only problem is Vientos is hitting .215 against righties right now and .246 big damage coming up against lefties, though his power has come against righties. If it's not a left, if there's not like a dominant amount of lefties, I'm probably not interested in Vientos. I would probably move off from him. I feel like Farmer did this I'm going to look here. I think Farmer did this last year where he had this like late run. October he hit 294. August of last year he hit 291 with a couple homers. He had 6 homers in September. So the final 2 months of the year he had 8 homers. Kyle Farmer did. So I feel like it's just like a late thing that he likes to run out. I guess my overarching guy would probably be Farmer here. If it was a daily transaction league and I was trying to play for power, it's Vientos. But I think Vientos' big damage is targeting lefties. And if he's only got 1 or 2 on the docket, probably not. Probably Farmer.
It looks like just 2, Braxton Garrett and Christopher Sanchez on the schedule next week for Mark Vientos. Let's quickly talk about, I just mentioned the name, right? Like who's behind door number 3? It's Zack Gelof. He has been nothing short of a stud. 2 for 4 with a sock and a shoe on Wednesday. He had one rough 5-game stretch at the end of August. And at that point, I started thinking, all right, well, maybe this is it. Zack Gelof starting to come back down to life. And then boom, September started and he's picked it right back up. Overall, he's played 59 games. That's it with Oakland. 277 batting average, 13 homers, 13 steals, and 881 OPS. He does swing and miss quite a bit. He's got a 26% strikeout rate, but lots of line drives, 91 mile per hour average exit velocity, a 12% barrel rate. And initially I thought, all right, he could be one of these guys that, he pulls his fly balls and he can kind of maximize his power that way. 6 of his 13 homers have either gone to center or opposite field. So this dude just has legit power, at least so far. Welsh, I have been super impressed by what we've seen from Zack Gelof.
Do you remember, too, he was a guy that we saw in the Arizona Fall League. Actually, you want to know a funny thing? I don't know if you remember this. You were sitting next to me. Do you remember Zack Gelof threw me a ball? And do you remember there was a player that threw me a ball? It was the sunny day game where Jackson Merrill was standing next to us, and people were yelling at him because they wanted a free Whataburger or whatever it was, or a In-N-Out. Zack Gelof had a ball, and he just threw it over to me, and I just had it in the cup that was sitting over there. That was our famous Zack Gelof ball. You don't even remember.
I was a little bit banged up. I was kind of recuperating that morning when we were at the game, so apologies.
The famous Zack Gelof, not that it means anything, but yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. The guy he actually kind of has this like Royce Lewis-y vibe to me in his approach, and how like Royce has kind of calmed the swing down a little bit. So there's some stuff still going on with Gelof, but there's 2020 easy potential in the future, in future seasons. One interesting thing to continue to watch is to see how he's going to end up hitting lefties. He is hitting 304 against righties this year. I just went away from it. 200 against lefties. 12 of his 13 homers have come against righties this year. So lefties have been a major problem. The only thing I would point out is with a guy like this, like long term, if you get into a little bit slumps, there could be a platoon potential if you can't hit lefties at all. But the hard hit numbers are there.
He's a righty.
I know, it's a weird split. I'm just saying it's a super weird split. It's like 200 against lefties right now. He's not hitting his opposite side. 12 homers on his side of the ball. But I love Zack Gelof. You kind of keep rolling it out here. The K percentage is actually, to me, not in like a worrisome state where I know you were like, it's a little bit high. It is a little bit high. But, if you think about him also maintaining, he's got a 277 batting average with a 260 expected batting average. So that's like maintained batting average, double-digit barrel percentage, over 42% hard hit. He's just checking boxes left and right. We just got to figure out what this lefty split situation is about, which is super weird. It's a reverse split, but gotta love Zack Gelof. And I don't know where the Zack Gelof ball is anymore, unfortunately, too, by the way.
Darn it. I just checked out his splits in the minors, and he's consistently been better against lefties than righties. So I actually find this is really encouraging that he's been as good against righties as he has been so far. And look, I understand there's still some downside here. He plays for the Oakland A's. It's a bad ballpark. It's obviously a very bad lineup, but man, just on an individual basis, if you've got Zack Gelof in like a keeper or dynasty league, I wouldn't be looking to sell high. I guess that's how I would put it. Like I really like what we've seen so far. Lots of speed in the minors this year too. I think there's a chance he could be like a 25-25 guy. I don't think that's out of the question.
It'll be interesting to see, like, with projection, once they run, everyone's like, oh, steamer and whatever. Like, how many guys are projected at 25 or close? Because I guess, like, at the top of my head, I feel like, what did you say? Like, there's maybe 10 player, 10 to somewhere in between 10 and 15, which is way bigger than in years past. But Gelof is one of those. And Gelof might not be a top 150 guy going into the offseason simply because he's an Oakland A. When you are paying up for the power speed combo players, you're always looking, who are the players that I can target a little bit later that can check a few of those boxes. He is one of those players with a pretty decently maintained batting average. So I'm with you. I wish I could be on here disagreeing and be like, oh, let's have parity and blah, blah, blah. But I agree with you on Gelof.
All right, I was going to quickly pull up and see how many 25-25 bats we have so far this season. And it looks like, oh man, this is going to be fantastic podcasting.
Yeah, it's the best podcasting.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 so far this season.
And then, but you also got to kind of calculate like who are the guys that are close. Like a Rosarena's almost there.
True.
Freddie Freeman is almost there. 26-20. Bellinger's almost there. So like my point was like maybe if you extrapolate it out, there's like 15 to 20 players that check the box of maybe being a 25-25 guy, and Gelof might be like the bottom rung of players that is going to probably be the cheapest. Like a guy like CJ Abrams is going to be exponentially more valuable and go for a lot more than I think than Zack Gelof, but it's someone that we shouldn't completely forget about, even though his RBI numbers are kind of stink because he's an A.
Right. Jose Ramirez is right there. 24 homers, 26 steals. This is a crazy one. Look at the shirt. Anthony Volpe, 21 homers, 24 steals this year.
Yeah.
But obviously, the batting average is in the toilet. All right, let's talk about some news and notes here. What's up?
Who would you rather have, Zack Gelof or Anthony Volpe next year?
Oh, I think it's undoubtedly Zack Gelof based on what we've seen so far. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Easy enough.
Yeah, take that, guy who called me a Yankees.
Yeah, Homer.
Some news and notes. Julio Rodriguez is undergoing precautionary x-rays after taking a pitch off of his left hand. Please be okay. Like, we need Julio Rodriguez for the rest of the season and for the playoffs. Like, I really want the Mariners to make the playoffs. My preseason World Series prediction, Welsh, was the Braves over the Mariners. So
wow, you really need that. By the way, can I also point out that the Trident is the greatest Homer celebration of all the teams? Do you think there's anybody that remotely comes close?
Oh man, there's a lot of cool ones. I would have to think about it. I really like
the Dong Bong.
For the Orioles, they do
Orioles.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, super cool.
I like the I like the samurai helmet for the Angels too. I think that's pretty dope.
Ooh, okay, yeah, but I think that there's something about the Trident. Like, I'm a sucker. Everyone knows I like cards and stuff. I've been waiting for it. Topps now, just the other day, Fanatics, they did the card of Julio standing in the dugout with the Trident, like screaming, and I was like, I have to have that. It's the coolest looking thing. The Trident is unmatched, and we need Julio being our Aquaman throughout the playoffs.
Absolutely. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was scratched from the lineup due to right knee discomfort, and he was actually day-to-day with that knee injury way back in May, so I wonder if maybe it's just been a recurring issue for Vlad Jr. this season, and that's why he's had the down season that he's had, but I don't know. I'm just trying to make excuses for the guy. Christian Yelich has now missed 11 of the past 12 games with that lingering back issue. Shane Bieber is slated to return from the 60-day IL on Friday against the Orioles. Jason Dominguez underwent Tommy John surgery on Wednesday, which included the addition of an internal brace. He's expected to be sidelined 9 to 10 months, putting his estimated return around the All-Star break.
Did you see? I just going to point out, like, on Twitter, like, he took a picture with the doctor. Like, they took a picture and they're both like thumbs up. They're like, hey, and like he has all these pictures of it. It just seems so weird. Like, it's a celebration of the thing, and I feel like the doctor asked him for a picture, and there's just all of these surgery pictures out there for Jason Dominguez. And we're like, okay, there's the Martian, but yes, he will be back after Shohei Ohtani, which is actually probably a shock to a lot of people.
Yeah. What a rough time, man. You talking about that reminded me of, I'm kind of this weird Yankees-Jets crossover. You usually don't get a lot of that in New York.
Homer,
but yeah. There was pictures of Aaron Rodgers, like, right after he got his Achilles, I don't know, reattached or whatever happened there. And his foot was, like, purple. I'm like, why did you take this picture in the surgery bed? It's kind of gross, but whatever.
It's super gross. I'm not about that. So you're saying your favorite players are just held up in wheelchairs right now? Yeah,
they're just dropping like flies.
So people should be nicer in the comments. Like, do you know what Frank is dealing with right now?
Oh, it's so bad. Like, so much enthusiasm for this Jets season, and it's like it's already done. Like, the year is already over. It's just
I remember loving Garrett Wilson, and now it's like,
yeah, no one wants
better in center field than playing with the Yankees right now. Wide receiver with the Jets.
Yeah. Riley Greene, by the way, also had Tommy John surgery, but is expected to be ready for the start of the 2024 season. How is this possible, you ask? Well, the injury for him, non-throwing elbow. So not as severe as for Jason Dominguez, who had the surgery on his throwing elbow. Royce Lewis will have an MRI on his hamstring when the Twins return home this weekend. He exited Tuesday night with left hamstring tightness. Ha-Sung Kim has missed 4 straight with abdominal soreness. Ryan Mountcastle, they said he wasn't going on the IL. Surprise! He was placed in the IL with left AC joint inflammation, retroactive to September 17th. I wonder if seeing Heston Kjerstad hit 2 home runs in his first 5 games maybe made them feel a little bit better about having Kjerstad in the lineup here.
Sit down, kid. We got Kjerstad. Yeah, I totally agree. And by the way, Ryan O'Hearn has been pretty amazing as well. So
yes, he really has. Carlos Correa was placed in the IL with plantar fasciitis, but expects to return when first eligible September 29th in Coors Field. I don't know. We'll see about that. Kenley Jansen has yet to be cleared from the COVID IL and might not return until next week. Eduardo Rodriguez will start Sunday against the A's. Everyone's facing the A's. After leaving his previous start with a left shoulder scapula spasm. Jake Berger left with quad tightness here on Wednesday. Luis Arraez has missed 2 straight with a left ankle sprain. Starling Marte is scheduled to play a pair of rehab games Saturday and Sunday, and if all goes well, he'll be cleared to return to the Mets during their final home.
this is going to be an audible meme here, but I don't believe you. Like, just put that meme out there. I don't believe you, Starling Marte. I'm not going to be fooled again.
Alex Cobb was placed in the IL with a left hip impingement and will miss the rest of the season. Kyle Harrison has been recalled and will start Thursday against the Dodgers. Spoiler alert, but if you play in a daily lineup league, do not play Kyle Harrison against the Dodgers. Mackenzie Gore is being shut down for the remainder of the season due to a blister. White Sox reliever Gregory Santos was placed in the IL with right elbow inflammation, which means Brian Shaw or Aaron Bummer will likely get the next save chance for the White Sox, assuming that they have one. I'm not sure that will happen. Let's take our final break. When we return, starters sit these pitchers in the final week of the season. I have 11 names written down. We'll get to that right after this.
Sports bettors, it is time to level up. What's up, everyone? I'm Mackenzie Brooks, host of the Sportsline Model Show, a new Sportsline YouTube show powered by the Projections and Insights team. We are giving you a new edge to sports betting by showing you behind the scenes of the Sportsline simulation and using it to answer your questions. Over the years, this team has cracked odds makers' codes and successfully replicated their lines. From there, we find out where books have moved lines artificially to target the public narrative, and we show you how to react to it. So join us every Tuesday for Q&A, value picks, fantasy analysis, and game breakdowns from the brains behind the Sportsline simulation. Come bring your questions and let's cash with the model.
Welcome back in. Let's do it. Rapid fire. Starter sit these pitchers in the final week of the season. And as I say all the time, preface this with, there's no blanket answer. This is for 12-team leagues. And obviously it depends on which pitchers you have on your team, but we'll just go based on the matchups and how these pitchers have been pitching recently. I'm sure most people benched Aaron Nola when, he was in line to face the Braves this week. And what does he do? He pitches really well. 6 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts to 0 walks. He had 18 swinging strikes. The final week of the season, it looks like he is home against the Pirates and at the Mets. I think that's an auto start, right?
Auto start. Fire it up.
Auto start indeed on Aaron Nola. What about the pitcher on the other side, Bryce Elder? He had a pretty awful start, 3 2/3 innings, 4 runs allowed, 5 walks in this one. Over his last 5 starts, a 4.88 ERA and a 1.45 WHIP. 2 starts next week against the Cubs and the Nats.
Big old nope. He has had a 4.5 plus ERA for 3 straight months, and he has had a 1.4 WHIP in 2 of those 3 months. He's just given it up. 2-run differential between the pre-All-Star break and the post-All-Star break. Maybe if I'm chasing wins, but I think he is a liability for ratios.
Yeah, 100%. Brian Bayo was blasted at the Texas Rangers. He allowed 8 runs over 3 innings. He had 4 walks, just 2 strikeouts, 2 homers allowed in this one. And he is only 51% started. 1 start against the Rays next week. I think that's a no for Brian Bayo for me.
I'm going to second your no. It's a big no from Bayo.
Okay. John Gray has failed to complete even 4 innings in each of his last 3 starts. And over his last 6 starts, he has a 7.99 ERA and a 2.16 WHIP. He's 85% rostered. I'll do you one better here, Welsh. Just drop this guy. Drop John Gray for any of the pitchers we talked about earlier.
You could just blindfold. You know what? Play a game of take some do the online dice game. Pick 3 dice, roll the numbers, see whatever number it is, scroll down, pick whatever number that pitcher equates to, drop John Gray for that player because it doesn't matter.
Christian Javier turned in his first double-digit strikeout start since May 10th. He was up against the Orioles.
Oh my God.
5 innings, 1 run allowed, 11 strikeouts with 20 swinging strikes, 14 of those on the fastball. And I saw this quote after the game. Christian Javier, this is what he had to say about his fastball. I think for me, it was really effective like last year. I was able to get a lot of swings and misses and dominate inside the strike zone. Even with that, 57% started. He's at Seattle next week. I think it's a no for me on Christian Javier.
I think it's a maybe for me. I mean, if Julio does miss time, think about that. That's one big impactful bat. I get a little bit drawn in to players that can identify major problems, and it's kind of silly to be like, hey, it's great inside the zone, but if you've got a fastball heavy pitcher that is trying to paint corners and can't do it, and they are losing their command, then that tells me something that this is a guy that is going to repeat the same thing. I think a team like the Mariners, if I am a little bit, if I'm being a little bit liberal about my ratios and I'm just trying to get like, a guy in there and take a shot and I'm not trying to hug him, I actually think I could start him here, but I'd really pay attention to what that lineup looks like.
I think for this next one, he's probably an auto start, but I'll just point out for George Kirby over his last 6 starts, he has a 5.56 ERA and a 1.29 whip. And the final week, he has 2 starts, but they're against the Astros and the Rangers. Talk about this final week, by the way. I mean, the way that the AL West is playing out right now, the Mariners have to face the Astros and the Rangers in the final week. Like, it does not get more dramatic than this. I think I'm still using George Kirby, but it's a little more scary than it has been earlier in the year.
Feels like the only team not facing the A's is the Mariners. Everybody else is, and it's just not George Kirby. Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't mean to blanket it, and I know it could be annoying to people because they want like every answer correct to them, but it's just like I saw the same thing of like, hey, would you bench Zach Wheeler against the Braves? And it's like, man, the guys that have been really good, I don't want to cherry pick. If you have the ability to have viable streaming options and you can cherry pick, then I think so. But at the end of the day, the elite players you gotta kind of depend on. I guess if I were to cherry pick one, I'm probably not trying to do that Astros one if I were to do it. And that is assuming you have the ability to stream and make up for it in other spots. But I kind of agree with you. Like, if it's just a straight up blanket, do I do it or not? I probably do it because it's Kirby.
Yeah. Seth Lugo now has a quality start in 6 of his last 7 outings. And in the final week of the season, he's at the Giants. I think I'm good with that.
I think I'm good with that as well. Yeah, easy stuff. I don't have a lot to add to it. Like, Lugo has been like a good, surprising innings eater type of guy, pile up some strikeouts. Padres, especially at like the back end of the season with the Padres, kind of shambles. You never know who they're going to be shutting down. So yeah, I agree with you.
For Aaron Savali, he got hit hard against the Angels here on Wednesday. He allowed 6 runs over 3 innings. Continues to rack up the strikeouts though. In 9 starts with the Rays, he's got a 5.36 ERA, a 1.33 whip, 55 strikeouts over 43 2/3 innings. So I can't really explain what's going on with Aaron Savali. He's 66% started on CBS. He's at the Red Sox in the final week. I don't feel great about it. Like, I think I'd rather use Seth Lugo than Aaron Savali.
Ooh, if you're giving me that option, yeah, maybe just because the match. Well, I don't know if the matchup is that much, but like, I think I would go with Savali. I think I would do it.
Okay. I think I would like pick up Michael King and use him over Aaron Savali, right? Like, if that's an option.
Yes, 100%. I'm definitely going. Like, I'm very big on Michael King. I go Michael King. Who's the other one we were talking
Reese
about?
Olson. I would do that too.
I think I go Reese Olson. There was also a singular. So I didn't.
I think there was like, we don't know if Pepio is going to have 1 or 2 starts yet. There was like Bailey Ober against Oakland, Reed Detmers against Oakland.
Detmers against Oakland, I might do. Yeah, so that's the territory. So you determine who's listening. Like, if those guys are options for you to change to, then I think like you kind of have your answer.
Yep. Mitch Keller got hit hard at the Cubs. 7 runs allowed over 5 2/3 innings. He gave up another 2 home runs, 13 hard hits allowed in this game. You want to talk about inconsistency. Mitch Keller has been as inconsistent as they come. He's prone to these big blow-up games as well. He has been tagged for 6 or more earned runs in 5 of his last 12 starts. And those are the ones that are so hard to recover from. The problem is that he's lined up for 2 starts next week against the Marlins and at the Phillies. So I think we could see more of the same. Like, I think the Marlins start could go really well, but then in Philadelphia against the way that lineup has played, it's kind of like Jekyll and Hyde for next week.
I think I'm out. I think he's too volatile. I would rather those other 2 start guys that we were talking about. I would rather Michael King than Mitch Keller. I think there's too much volatility. And I know that's crazy because it's like, who's King? King could easily blow apart, but I think Keller has proven to be too inconsistent. So if you're stuck into the 2 starts, I think I would just rather pass. And I'm not really sure I like either one of them.
Yep. Yuri Perez has not been as good since rejoining the Marlins here. His 8 starts since returning, he's got a 4.26 ERA and a 1.18 whip. I feel like I'm kind of grading him on a curve because of what he did earlier in the year, but like, that's still okay for a rookie. He's not going very deep into his starts. He's like way past how many innings he threw last year too. So I wonder if he's starting to wear down. Yuri Perez, 48% started. He's at the Mets in the final week.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you're playing for wins. I don't think maybe you're just playing for ratios, and I think they're babying it pretty hard. So that's a pass for me.
Last one here. Bobby Miller did not have his best stuff against the Tigers, but still managed a quality start. He gave up 2 runs over 6 innings. He had 7 strikeouts in that one. His previous 5 starts before this, a little shaky, 5.78 ERA, 113 whip. He is 72% started. Looks like he lines up for 2 starts next week. 1 at the Giants. Okay, we like that. 1 in Coors Field. What do you think about Bobby Miller?
I think if I was desperate, I could do it for the 2 starts, but I think I'd probably rather not. I don't think the Giants are not a layup, and in Colorado, anything can happen in Colorado. Like, he could go 7 and strike out 9 and give up 2 hits, or he could give up 9 earned runs and have 2 strikeouts. Like, anything could happen. It's risk management to your own fantasy team. I am not going to suggest Bobby Miller. I see the case where I could do it. I think that's too volatile for me, and I think there's some less sexy named players that I would rather than a lot of the dudes you've thrown out here.
All right, before we get into some leftovers, I did want to quickly talk about the Arizona Fall League and what's the latest going on there. We've mentioned the Arizona Fall League before, and obviously the Welsh is going to be out there going to a ton of games. For people, I just kind of assume everyone knows what it is, but they might not know. So Welsh, if I don't know, 30 seconds or less, how would you describe what the Arizona Fall League actually is?
Yeah, it's the finishing school. It's the place that teams are sending prospects anywhere from like high A to double A, sometimes low A, that are either trying to gain more innings or at bats, that are close to the majors, a Rule 5 eligible as well. It's a big Rule 5 place. It is the extra look for teams on some of the game's biggest prospects. And I think we've had 30 to 40 plus from last year's AFL make debuts this season. So it is a very, I know I talk about it a lot, but it is important, even for people that don't care about dynasty, because next year your seasons are going to be impacted by a lot of these players, and getting early looks can give you some insight, because you're going to have projection systems that are going to not like a lot of rookies sometimes, and just having an extra edge of being able to see a player gives you kind of perspective. You were given that this year, Frank, more than anything else. So we're already getting names. It feels like they still haven't released the rosters, which is insane. They might release them Friday. The games start October 2nd. I'm going to be out pretty much every single day seeing them, hopefully seeing some of the game's big prospects. There's only a handful of names that we've been given publicly. Colson Montgomery with the White Sox, Kevin Alcantara. There's a big rumor that Ricky Tiedemann is locked into pitch, which will be one of the biggest pitchers we've seen in some time. A bunch of middle line players. I've heard Ryan Bliss, who got traded to the Mariners, and a handful more that we can't speak of, but we're patiently waiting to see if we are going to get the likes of Jackson Holiday as a top prospect, or, the Harry Fords of the world, or even crazy, a guy like Ethan Salas, who has moved all the way up to Double A. You never know what can happen. We've seen 18-year-old guys come up. We've seen 26-year-old players. It's a unique place that they don't televise the stuff really, and we will try to give you as much extra coverage as we can and help you in your fantasy leagues next year.
Yeah, and this is really something look, if you're really a baseball fanatic, and I know during the fall, obviously we got the playoffs going on, so you could very easily follow that. But if you want to follow even more baseball and check some box scores and see what's going on with some of these prospects playing, you could do that. You could just Google like Arizona Fall League, and the website is up there, and you can follow along. So it's pretty fun. Last year we saw Jordan Walker out there. We saw Mason Wynn. We saw Zack Gelof. And again, those guys.
Matt
Mervis. I'm hoping to see you back with the Cubs soon, please.
Might see him again this year in the AFL. I never know.
Yeah, you never know. And a quick reminder that the Welsh and I, we will both be out there at First Pitch Arizona, which is presented by Baseball HQ. That will be from November 2nd to the 5th. And it's in this awesome fantasy baseball convention. You get to watch some of those prospects play, live podcasts, panels, way too early 2024 drafts. So if you want to join in on some of the fun, head to baseballhq.com/firstpitcharizona. Let's talk some quick leftovers here from Wednesday. And some big pitching performances. Kyle Bradish, he was awesome at the Astros. 6 shutout innings, 9 strikeouts, 18 swinging strikes on 100 pitches. Just leaned into that slider, threw it 50% of the time in this start, and it was awesome. 13 of his 18 swinging strikes came on that slider. Welsh, your boy Merrill Kelly, he's back on track. Quality start at home against the Giants. 6 2/3 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts for him. And Kodai Senga, another quality start at the Marlins. Didn't have his best stuff. 6 innings, 2 runs, 3 strikeouts, but still kind of managed a good one here. 8 straight quality starts for Senga.
You want to know why he didn't have his best stuff? because I bet his strikeout prop, because I was like, oh, Luis Ariz is not going to be in the lineup, and you're going to have the likes of Jorge Soler leading off. This seems like a prime spot. He struck out like 7+ in 4 of his last 5. This seems great. Struck out 3, could not get anything, was pitching to a ton of contact, and of course, because I bet him today. So just letting you know, it's my fault.
I do have a new soundbite for Kodai Senga. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Who you gonna call?
Who are you going to call? Ghost Forkball.
Oh, Ghost Forkball. I was like, oh, Kodai Senga. I was like, where are we going to go with this? All right, Ghost Forkball. I got it.
Kevin Gausman, back to his dominant ways, too. At the Yankees, 6 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts, 17 swinging strikes in that one. Anything to add on Gausman, Merrill Kelly, and Kyle Bradish?
No, I mean, I just like Kyle Bradish is going to be so unique to look at next year with low walk numbers, decent strikeout numbers, ERA. Even though the expected ERA is a little bit higher, it's still under 4, which is something you love to see. I just think, the improvements we've seen just across the board of the the heavy slider usage, having an expected batting average right around 200 and having 2 double-digit pitches with an over 30% whiff rate. Like, this is the type of stuff with those results that are going to lead to him being probably a really good sleeper pitcher next year, because there's so many pitchers in Scott's glob that Bradish is probably not one that's going to come at a high cost. And I think a lot of us are going to probably find ourselves, having as a pitcher that will round out our staffs.
Some quick hitting leftovers. Nick Castellanos, 2 for 5 with a double dong. Very solid bounce back season for him. 27 homers, 99 RBI, 10 steals, and he is the 15th best outfielder in Roto, 24th best in head-to-head points leagues. Great bounce back season here for Nick Castellanos. Ketel Marte, 1 for 4 with his 24th home run. He had a rough August, but has bounced back big time in September, batting .333, 3 homers, 5 doubles, 2 triples, a 1019 OPS for Ketel Marte in the month of September. Nolan Jones, guy just continues to crush it. 2 for 3 with a double, his 17th steal. He's already having a huge week, so hopefully you listen to Scott the past couple of weeks. You picked up Nolan Jones. He's got 6 hits this week, a homer, and 4 steals. His 150-game pace, 26 homers, 26 steals. So
another 25 guy.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know where the hype will wind up on Nolan Jones, but I just feel like you're going to be able to get him and Zack Gelof at like a pretty good price next year. Maybe
I'd say, who would you rather? Who would you rather of them?
I think I got to take the Coors Field aspect there.
Yeah, me too.
And it's just like Oakland is so bad, but I like both. I like both guys. Xander Bogaerts also continues his torrid September. 3 for 4 with a double and his 18th steal so far in the month, batting .471, 4 homers, 9 doubles in a month already, 5 steals, and a 1323 OPS for Xander Bogaerts. Call to the bullpen. A few updates here for the Phillies. Craig Kimbrell pitched the 9th inning with the game tied. Matt Strahm would eventually pick up his 2nd save in extra innings. For the Twins, Yohan Duran entered in the bottom of the 8th inning with the Twins trailing at the time 3-2. He struck out 2. The Twins then took the lead. And in the bottom of the 9th, Griffin Jax got his 3rd save of the season. How did the Twins get that lead? Well, Alexis Diaz got the 9th inning with a 1-run lead at the time. He gave up 3 runs on a walk and 2 hits, took his 3rd blown save and 5th loss of the year. For the Mariners, Andres Munoz got the 8th inning with a 3-run lead facing Zack Gelof, Ryan Noda, and Seth Brown. Justin Topa walked 1 in the 9th, but picked up his 3rd save of the year.
Of course.
It was kind of weird, right? Like, why did the Mariners use Munoz in the 8th?
Of course, Justin Topa. Why? How could we have all not thought that the great Justin Topa would be getting his save? Of course.
For the Padres, Josh Hader allowed a hit, but picked up his 31st save. And I'm just seeing now for the Tigers, a gentleman named Will Vest got his 2nd save of the year. Did Alex Lang pitch in this game? No, he did not. I'm guessing he was unavailable. Will Vest got the final 5 outs for his 2nd save of the year with the Detroit Tigers. Let's wrap up with to stream or not to stream. And on Thursday, here are some options. We've got Kyle Hendricks up against the Pirates. We have Griffin Canning at Tampa Bay. Wade Miley at the Cardinals. We have Ranger Suarez against the Mets. Emmett Sheehan against the Giants. I know he's looked better recently. You like any of those names, Walsh?
I think I can get down with Ranger and Kyle Hendricks, still both a little bit risky. Thursday, I believe Gibson Long was moved off of Thursday. So this group, and I think they moved Kyle Hendricks up. I think Kyle Hendricks used to be a Friday start, and they've took him away from facing Colorado to face Pittsburgh. So I think Kyle Hendricks is kind of that safer quality start win type of guy, hugging your ratios a little bit, not getting strikeouts. Ranger is a little bit more of a risky play, but I might want to, push my risky plays to Friday or the weekend.
On Friday, the man you've mentioned many times, Sawyer.
I know, sorry, it's annoying. Like,
no, he's pitched well. We absolutely need to mention him. He's at the Oakland A's, so that's everyone's facing Oakland. Ken Waldichuk on the other side, he's facing the Tigers. We've got Dane Dunning against the Mariners. Brandon Pfaadt at the Yankees. This Yankee lineup has been really bad. My one hesitation is that Brandon Pfaadt is a fly ball pitcher in Yankee Stadium, so
no way.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
No way would you start Brandon unless you get points for giving up homers. There's no chance I would start Brandon Pfaadt in New York. I'm gonna look and see what the giving up homer prop is, and I'll take the over. If it's 1.5, I'm taking the over. He might give up 4. This is Gibson Long. This is only Gibson Long here. You could make a case for Dane Dunning if the good Dane Dunning shows up. Taylor McGill has had some signs, but I just don't want to go up against Philly here. Taijuan Walker, I think there's a lot of interesting names. The only one that I would really want to jump on here is Gibson Long. Hopefully not setting yourselves up for some big failure against the A's, because the A's, I feel like, can do that sometimes. But that would be how I'm going down with the ship of these 2 days.
We are going to wrap there. For the Welsh, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.